Hey everybody, Greg here again. This is part three of the small series on consulting, talking about a little bit about how I've learned during my consulting journey, that have helped and some mistakes I've made. And this is a little bit of a special episode. After the second episode, a buddy of mine, he commented on the LinkedIn post about some additional ideas, and we talked afterwards and said, this would be a great idea for us to do an episode together. So Matt Genova, I have known him for over 30 years, good friend of mine, and really was instrumental in a lot of ways when I first started. I had a few questions about consulting, and he helped me out. And so he graciously joined us or offered to join us today to impart his wisdom on us. So Matt, thank you so much for joining.
Hey, I'm great and excited to be here. You look like exactly what I remember from 30 years ago. So you're doing good. The water must be good where you are.
Well, I think you got to get your eyes checked, but I appreciate that. Or maybe maybe your screen resolution is a little bit messed up, but thank you. So why don't we start with a little bit of your background, like how you got into consulting, and then what led you are now the business startup consultant for Naturals to Go, how that led to your position right now.
Perfect. And I'm glad that I saw your post. And I think there are probably a lot of people out there that appreciate the fact that you're putting a little context to how you got where you are, because all of us have a career pivot at some point in our lives. And we either choose to continue along the road we are on, or we truly pivot and go into something different. And, I was in the corporate world since, the day I graduated college, and, it got to a point where I decided I wanted to do my own thing. I started to look at businesses and started to think about, what can I own? What can I start? Should I start something? And I wound up working with a franchise consultant whose main goal was to help me through that exploration. And what I found was my skills that I gained in my career were very transferable to what that person was doing for me. So I decided to go out and become a franchise consultant, where I worked with people all over the country to help them achieve their dreams of business ownership. It was really sort of changing their life, and it was kind of good to be able to give back as part of what I was going to do with my career. And then, as you mentioned, I had Naturals to Go, which is the fastest growing, longest running, most awarded, and highly rated business opportunity company in the country. It specializes in healthy vending. I had that in my portfolio. And after placing several people in there, my wife and I looked at each other one day and said, you know what, maybe this is a business that we should take on. So then I wound up investing in a Naturals to Go vending business, and did that while my wife and I were relocating from New York to sunny South Florida. Now, I have to go back and be remiss to say that the first business I launched was Next Act Franchise Advisors. That was the first taste of consulting that I got. And it was kind of an interesting journey because, people were coming at me from all walks of life, all experience sets, all different motivations, and all different whys. And it was amazing to be able to hear those stories and help people really reflect on sort of where they wanted to go next in life. And a lot of people really didn't know where to go. And it was almost like me. I had no idea where I wanted to go. So it was great doing that journey together and then ultimately ending up where we are now.
Well, and I appreciate you bringing us through your career journey there, because a lot of it mirrors in a way mine. I think I jumped into doing the virtual CISO consulting full time and starting a business maybe in a year or so after you had made that leap. So it was good to have a little bit of a trailblazer, if you will, in front to kind of ping some questions off of. So that was one of the things I know we wanted to talk about. I think the next one was you had some really good insight on the top two considerations when planning on going the entrepreneurial route, what would kind of expand on that?
Sure. So I think that it all starts with consulting is one way to sort of forge a new career. But the first thing you have to decide is, hey, I'm going out on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And am I ready to be a business owner? And I think it's step number one is all about doing a brutally honest self-assessment. And it's very simple and straightforward. It's taking stock of a couple of items. I said the first thing is, what am I good at? And what am I not so good at? And before you sort of jot those notes down and move on to the next thing, you say, well, if I asked a previous coworker or a family member or a friend those same two questions, what would they say?
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes I would challenge people to go out and do that. And they started learning things about themselves that they didn't realize. And it was good for them to have all of that stuff on paper. Then you start going through the things of what job functions do I like doing? What do I don't like to do? What are my transferable skills? And then once you've built that and that bucket, so to speak, you start to piece through it. And then you decide, you know what, is business ownership really right for me? And if it is, based on those answers, then it's kind of like, all right, well, let's take a look at what skills I bring to the table, particularly in consulting. And you start to look at that. And if you started to come up with answers like, I build rapport quickly, I have the ability to earn people's trust very rapidly. I am a good listener. I probe well. I ask very poignant questions. I actually listen some more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to tell a story with the inputs that I'm given. Do I bring any specific industry experience there to leverage, almost like you? I mean, you were in the industry and you went into consulting to support what you did. And also, I think the last thing from a skill perspective, I think, is having empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Really understanding, and particularly where the consulting that I went into, understanding where people are coming from. They're nervous. They're filled with anxiety. They don't know where to go. And to understand that from the very beginning. And I think that's sort of the bucket of skills that I found to be very successful as a consultant. But then I would say the other piece that we talked about is you have to ask yourself, what do I want my life to be like when I finally grow up, so to speak?
Which I haven't grown up yet. So
right. And I certainly struggle with achieving that grown-up status for a number of reasons. But there are things that you really have to consider, like work-life balance, controlling your own destiny, giving back. Like those are the three things that I wanted when I left the corporate world. And I want them to be very high on my priority list. But things like, do I want to work from home? Do I need to or want to commute? Do I want employees or not? Do I want flexibility in my life? Do I want to leverage a skill set? Do I want to leverage a passion? All of those things you need to sort of put on a list and prioritize so you have them side by side. So here's my skills. I know what I'm good at and not good at. I know what I like to do and not like to do. And here's what I want out of my life. And when you put it all together, you ultimately can then start to chart your path.
So when you talk about skills, I know we kind of chatted about this a little bit offline before, talked about one of the most important things with regards to starting your own business is that you have to in some way sell yourself. And you can't just go out. It's not as if and I actually thought maybe this was going to be the case. I put my shingle up, people are going to come to me. It's like, wow, I've been waiting all this time for Greg to do this. It doesn't work that way. And so I realized early on, and I should have done this self-assessment beforehand, that I'm horrible when it comes to cold calling. I think I'm okay with the function of it, but it doesn't bring me joy. And really, it didn't bring me clients either. So, but Would you agree though, what I found at least, and I don't know how transferable this is that I found other ways that worked with my skill set to advertise and to bring in clients. Would you agree? And if so, how do you think that people can, is that part of that skill assessment? Well, maybe I'm not so good here, but I can manage not having that skill by having these skills.
Listen, it's a good point, and that's why I ensured when I was a franchise consultant, especially that you have to know what you're good at and what you're not good at. And if it's not uh, cold calling or networking or promoting yourself, and you're getting into a business like a consulting, you have to definitely rely on plan B. And you do things like this, which I think are very helpful. You put together, you interview people, you have frank conversations. That is a great way for people to gain knowledge and then, more importantly, learn about you. Sometimes you have to turn to pure advertising. You know, whether you're going to go onto social media and actually do ads, or you're going to integrate a LinkedIn campaign, something I've done in the past. But absolutely, if you're going to, the whole point is that if you're going to control your own destiny, no matter what you do, you're going to have an element of self-promotion in there,
Right.
and the ability to talk. And if you are not comfortable going outside your comfort zone, you better make sure you're willing to put in the money to spend and invest in promoting your business, because you're going to have to do it. No matter how turnkey the business is, ultimately, you're still going to have to be selling yourself.
That is an excellent point. And you're right. There's no way around it. And I think the other thing that I kind of pinged on was what you want your life to be. Now, I've seen some folks that have jumped out into being consultants where they feel that because of their career track that maybe I think they jump into it a little bit too soon. They don't really go through that self-assessment. Like when you start in the beginning, would it be fair to say that you really have to have a vision on where you want to be like in say 1, 3, and 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, we've all read that in the textbooks and the various online guides of where you want to be. And guess what? That was the standard interview question as we were coming up through the ranks. Where do you see
Right.
yourself in
That's
1
probably where I
year?
got it from. Yeah.
And but it's true. And look, with the way things are going, how do you define that? Only you will know that. So if it's a financial milestone, if it's a number of clients milestone, if it's the number of calls, texts, voicemails left metric, you have to define that for yourself. But you don't want to keep moving the goalposts, but definitely setting up targets is going to be important, because that's the only way for you to know if you're on track or not.
My goal
Flying by the seat of your pants in your own business doesn't
is
work.
no good. No. Well, I think I set my bar kind of low because my goal was simply I just wanted to continue to eat. I mean, really,
And you know
really,
what? That's fine.
and really, mine was I wasn't looking to go out and hire people and have other people working for me. Maybe like one a little bit here and there to offload some stuff, but other than that, I never really saw it growing. But I found that I needed to have the flexibility to, okay, do I want to take this next step? How does that look like? And all of that. And part of that too, the last thing that I pinged on was, I think a very important point you made is that you have to listen. You have to listen and consume stuff that people are talking to you about, the feedback on your campaigns, which work and don't work, even just consume stuff out on the internet to constantly learn, because that's what I'm doing. I'm constantly learning.
Right. No, it's a good point. Look, I can even boil it down. Look at the vending machine business, right? People go into it for a variety of reasons. They love the flexibility and working from home, and the simplicity of their business model, and all of the support and training and mentoring that Naturals to Go gives an operator. But one of the great things is you have to listen to your customer. Your job is to maximize the number of vends your machine is doing, right? So
Right.
one would think, all right, so whatever, you put the stuff in, you load it, and you move on. No, it's about understanding, what people want when they want it, and how much they're willing to pay. And listen to that feedback and continually tweak your product mix and your pricing to reflect what people want. That's the way you maximize revenue. Versus what typically happens is you go up to a vending machine, and it's half empty, it's broken, stuff is outdated. Like
Yeah.
that's not a healthy business right there.
I want my Twix and I want it now. You know? All
And
right.
the damn
Well,
thing is stuck.
and then you're beating up on the machine and the cop comes and
Right.
it's a bad thing. Not that it ever happened to me. So,
Right.
all right. If you were to get, last question, if you were to give the most important, and it's probably going to be something that we already talked about, but the singular most important thing that somebody out there is a piece of advice for someone out there who is considering going the route of becoming their own business owner, what would it be?
I really think it's about being honest with who you are
Mhm.
and what you bring to the table. Not everybody is cut out to be a business owner. And that's some of the toughest conversations I've had to have with people as they went through this sort of self-assessment. But really, it's truly being honest with who you are and what you bring to the table. That to me is it.
That's awesome words of wisdom. Well, thank you, Matt. I appreciate it so much for giving us some words of wisdom. Appreciate catching up as well, too.
I certainly hope it helps. And Greg, great seeing you as always.
All right. Well, thanks a lot.